Imagine for a second, just think about trying to bottle human kindness. Like, think about that spontaneous, deeply personal warmth you feel when someone truly cares for you in a moment of vulnerability.
Oh, yeah. It's a very specific feeling.
Right. It feels like something that entirely belongs to the realm of emotion, you know? You certainly wouldn't think you could just put empathy on, like, an assembly line.
Well, because the moment someone tries to mechanize empathy, it usually backfires
Well,
completely.
it gets weird.
It does. It feels incredibly artificial, and it loses the very thing that makes the interaction valuable in the first place. I mean, you end up with a robotic customer service script instead of genuine human connection.
Exactly. Which is what makes our topic today so compelling. Welcome to another deep dive. Today we are looking at a masterclass in trying to solve the exact paradox.
It really is a paradox, yeah.
The stack of paper sitting on the desk between us right now is the OwnerStack Home Healthcare Group Comprehensive Business Portfolio. And this was prepared by John F. Hendershot. It is, yeah. And our mission for you today is to explore how a visionary entrepreneur takes a highly emotional, just fundamentally human and notoriously chaotic service industry home healthcare in this case, and basically engineers it into a scalable, highly profitable, and institutional grade asset.
And honestly, it really is a masterclass in organizational design.
Yeah.
I mean, we are looking at a 120-plus page blueprint for building a business that operates with absolute precision,
Right.
but doing all of that while delivering a service that, requires intense compassion.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because whether you are building your own startup or maybe managing a team at a massive corporation or honestly just trying to organize the chaos of your own daily life, there is something profound in this document for you.
Absolutely.
It teaches you exactly how to replace what the author calls founder heroics with transferable bulletproof
And
systems.
that phrase, founder heroics, I love that because it completely redefines how we usually think about small business success.
How so?
Well, in most local businesses, the entire operation leans completely on the owner's personal memory, right? Their individual relationships with clients, their sheer exhausting willpower.
Yeah, the founder is basically playing whack-a-mole all day long.
Exactly. And if that founder gets sick, or heaven forbid, needs a vacation, the entire business just stops functioning.
It just grinds to a halt. So to understand how they cure that, we really have to start right at the foundation of this business plan. Like, why on earth did they write this massive, hyper-detailed document before even launching the company?
Right. It's a lot of upfront work.
It's a ton. It's
Yeah.
built on something they call the Hendershot 150 plus business readiness methodology. And the core tension they're addressing here is just fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's very explicit.
The document explicitly states that compassion without systems leads to burnout, but systems without compassion create a cold, transactional experience.
They're attempting to thread an incredibly difficult needle there. I mean, the goal of this entire portfolio is to transition a business from that chaotic, founder-dependent model to a completely systems-driven model.
Without becoming robots.
Right. They had to do it without losing the humanity that makes the caregiving service work. Because home healthcare is like the absolute definition of a high-stress environment.
Oh, for sure.
You're dealing with vulnerable human beings in unpredictable, intimate settings. Like their own living rooms and bedrooms.
It's like they're trying to franchise empathy. Like, reading through this, I kept thinking about a really charming mom and pop bed and breakfast.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, where the owner bakes you fresh muffins and they remember your dog's name and they give you a big hug when you leave. It's magical, right?
Yeah, totally.
But the second you try to scale that exact feeling to a 500 location hotel chain, you usually just end up with a sterile beige lobby and a pre-packaged muffin wrapped in plastic.
Right, the soul is gone.
Exactly. OwnerStack is trying to figure out how to keep the soul of the bed and breakfast, but operate with the brutal scale and efficiency of the corporate hotel chain.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at the competitive landscape they are entering here. I mean, in their target market of Grand Rapids, Michigan alone, there are over 40 fragmented independent home care providers operating right now.
Wait, 40 competitors just in one mid-sized city?
Yep,
That is an incredibly crowded market.
it is. But the vast majority of those 40 providers are running exactly that mom-and-pop bed and breakfast model you just mentioned.
Ah, okay.
They rely completely on informal text messages between the owner and the caregivers. They have no real technology stack, no formal procedures, and like no corporate structure at all.
Wow.
So from an institutional investor standpoint, that makes them essentially unsellable.
Right, because an investor can't buy the owner's brain. When the owner leaves, the magic leaves with them.
Precisely. What this owner stack portfolio does by thoroughly documenting every single legal and corporate structure, I mean, right down to having a customized LLC operating agreement fully drafted from day one, is it reduces a buyer's due diligence time by 40 to 60%.
Wow. 40 to 60%. That feels like the difference between a multi-million-dollar deal closing and a deal completely falling apart at the finish line.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Right.
Institutional investors and private equity acquirers, they don't want to buy a job.
Right.
They demand clean legal structures, clearly defined ownership, and airtight compliance frameworks. So OwnerStack is proving that it's an institutional-grade asset from page one, which makes it an incredibly attractive acquisition target.
But protecting that asset value while still franchising the empathy we talked about, that requires some serious groundwork. Looking at this portfolio, the answer to how they pull it off on the ground is this almost relentless documentation of their standard operating procedures, or SOPs.
Relentless is the word.
They have exactly 160 documented SOPs. 160.
Yeah, they leave absolute nothing to chance or individual interpretation.
The level of detail is staggering. Like, for example, there's an SOP that dictates an intake call from a prospective client must be answered within exactly 3 rings during business hours.
3 rings, no exceptions.
Yeah, and they even mandate specific scripted greetings for the staff to use. But the document that really caught my eye was this highly visual guide they call the Absolutely Not checklist.
That specific checklist is a brilliant piece of operational design.
It really is. It's covered in these bright red X icons, and it explicitly lists prohibitions for caregivers. And some are just obvious safety protocols, like do not leave a client unattended in the bath, or do not lift a client without proper training.
Standard liability stuff.
Right, standard stuff. But others dive into these incredibly specific, nuanced boundary issues, like do not use the client's TV or internet for personal use. Do not share your personal contact information. Do not talk about your personal financial problems or your dating life with the client.
Yeah, it draws a very bright line around professional behavior in an environment that naturally blurs those lines.
I do have to push back here, though.
Okay, sure.
When I was reading through these 160 rules and this strict absolutely not checklist, I couldn't help but wonder, doesn't handing a caregiver a rule book the size of a novel turn them into a robot?
It sounds like it would, yeah.
Doesn't this kind of intense micromanagement actually kill the very compassion and warmth we just said was the whole point of the business?
It's a highly intuitive pushback, for sure. We tend to think that rules stifle emotion, but it's actually the exact opposite of how operational psychology works in high-stress, unpredictable environments.
Really?
Yeah, these systems don't replace humanity, they protect it.
Okay, you have to explain that. How do 160 rules protect someone's humanity?
Well, think about the cognitive load on a caregiver who is walking into a stranger's home to provide deeply intimate care. Maybe the client is confused, maybe a dog is barking loudly, maybe the family is stressed out.
Sounds overwhelming.
It is. And if that caregiver has to constantly guess about what the boundaries are, or how to properly document a medication reminder, or what the protocol is if the client slips, their brain is entirely consumed by anxiety and operational guesswork.
Oh, I see.
By removing the guesswork, by having a clear, memorized protocol for every potential scenario, the caregiver's mind is free.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. They can actually focus entirely on the human being sitting right in front of them, offering genuine compassion because they aren't worried about the mechanics of their job.
Ah, so the system is like a safety net. Because you know the net is securely fastened underneath you, you can actually perform with much more grace and focus up on the tightrope.
That's a great way to put it. And there is also a hard, undeniable business reality attached to this relentless documentation. According to the source material, acquirers will actually pay a 15 to 25% premium for agencies that have thoroughly documented procedures.
Wait, a 25% bonus on the sale price of your company just for having a really good rule book?
Yeah, because those SOPs prove that the business runs without the founder.
Right.
It proves that a new employee can come in, study the 160 procedures,
Right.
and deliver the exact same quality of service as someone who has been there for 5 years. That absolute consistency, that lack of dependence on any one individual
Yeah.
is what an acquirer is actually writing the check for.
But protecting the caregiver's mental state and building that consistency with a 160 rule playbook creates a whole new problem. I mean, training someone on a textbook of procedures takes time and money.
It does.
Which brings us to the actual cost of running a machine like this. Documenting everything, training staff to follow them perfectly, building out this whole infrastructure. It sounds incredibly expensive.
We have to break the economics down into two distinct areas here to really see how it works.
Yeah.
You have the human return on investment and the technology return on investment.
Okay.
Because in the home care industry, managing your labor force dictates whether you survive or go bankrupt.
The statistics in this portfolio regarding labor are just shocking. The industry average caregiver turnover rate is a staggering 65%.
It's massive.
That means if you hire 100 employees, 65 of them will quit by the end of the year. You're constantly interviewing, hiring, and watching people walk out the door.
It's a bleeding wound for most agencies,
Yeah.
driven by low pay and emotional burnout. OwnerStack deliberately targets a much lower turnover rate of just 35 to 40%.
And the math behind why they fight so hard for that retention is fascinating. They calculate that every single prevented turnover saves the company $3,500.
Right.
That's in recruiting, onboarding, background checks, and training costs. So to keep those caregivers happy and convince them to stay, OwnerStack pays them $16 to $18 an hour, which is noticeably above the local Grand Rapids market average of $14 to $16.
Exactly. They're strategically overpaying for their frontline labor to stop the bleeding on the back end.
I understand saving the $3,500 per retained employee, but they're still maintaining a 28 to 32% gross margin while paying premium wages. And I was looking at their budget, and I genuinely don't get it. They are budgeting a $28,000 to $32,000 annual technology spend. For a startup, that seems like a massive fixed cost. Why not just hire an office manager for that price to handle the paperwork?
Wait, we have to talk about the electronic visit verification and the GPS tracking here because from a unit economics perspective, it's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, really?
Yes. The ROI on that software isn't just a vague promise of making things easier. It fundamentally alters the structure of the company. By using GPS on a caregiver's phone to instantly verify they have arrived at the client's home, they completely obliterate the need for a bloated middle management team.
Oh, because you don't need a human sitting at a desk in a central office calling 30 different caregivers every morning to ask, did you make it to Mrs. Smith's house? Are you stuck in traffic?
Exactly. The software just handles it silently in the background.
Wow.
Furthermore, that GPS verification is strictly required for Medicaid billing. If you want government reimbursement, you must prove the visit happened with location data.
Ah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so by building the tech infrastructure correctly from day one, they keep their administrative overhead incredibly lean, they guarantee compliance, and they project a 3 to 5x return on that initial $30,000 investment.
Okay, that makes the other software investments make a lot more sense too. Like their electronic medical records system, or EMR, cuts the time caregivers spend writing down documentation by 40%.
Huge time saver.
And their automated scheduling software optimizes routes and cuts caregiver travel costs by 25%.
And you also have to consider the legal and compliance aspect of the technology as well. They utilize a strict 3-2-1 backup rule for all their data.
Right.
That means 3 copies of all company data stored on 2 different media types, with 1 copy stored completely off-site in the cloud.
Which honestly sounds like absolute overkill for a small business until you read the fine print about iPay.
Oh yeah, iPay does not mess around.
Not at all. iPay is the federal law that strictly protects patient medical records. A single privacy violation, like leaving an unencrypted laptop in a coffee shop, carries a staggering $50,000 fine per incident.
It's brutal.
One careless mistake could literally bankrupt the entire company.
The tech stack isn't a luxury in this space at all. It is a defensive moat, protecting the entire asset.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. This perfectly sets up their break-even math.
It's the break-even math.
Despite the higher hourly wages, despite the massive upfront technology costs, despite the customized legal fees to build this fortress of a business, OwnerStack projects, they will hit their break-even point with just 24 active clients.
A threshold of just 24 clients to stabilize the business. It's amazing.
Or, to put it in their specific highly tracked terms, 3,704 billable hours a month. That is an incredibly low threshold to stop burning cash and start generating real profit.
It really is, and it proves the unit economics are fundamentally sound. Once they cross that threshold of 24 clients, the fixed costs of the expensive systems and the tech stack are already entirely covered.
Right.
So every single additional client after number 24 drops pure profit directly to the bottom line.
We've built these beautiful systems, we've hired the staff at a premium wage to reduce turnover, and the math clearly works to scale profitability. But what is the ultimate endgame here? Like, why is John F. Hendershot building this highly specific blueprint for OwnerStack?
It is all about designing for the exit.
The portfolio contains this highly detailed 3-year strategic roadmap, and it introduces a concept that I think is crucial for anyone listening who wants to build long-term value in their own work.
Yeah.
SDE, or seller's discretionary earnings.
SDE is basically the secret language of small business valuation.
Explain the mechanics of how SDE actually works, because reading this, I had to pause. It's essentially a way of showing a buyer the true cash flow potential of the business, right?
Yes, exactly.
You take the standard net income of the company, and then you add back all the discretionary expenses that a new owner wouldn't necessarily have to pay.
Right. So in their year 3 projection, the pure net income on their tax returns might look artificially low because they are heavily investing in growth and the owner is taking a salary. But when calculating SDE, they add back the owner's projected $120,000 salary into the profit column.
Because a new corporate buyer might just want to be an absentee investor and not take a salary at all. Or maybe they already have an executive team in place to run it.
Precisely. And they also add back things like the owner's vehicle allowances, any one-time startup legal fees they paid in year 1, and premium health benefits the founder gave themselves.
Got it.
By meticulously tracking these add backs from the very beginning, they standardize the earning power of the business.
I have to admit, my initial reaction was a bit skeptical. Isn't artificially inflating your cash flow for a buyer borderline illegal? Or at least, like, a bit shady?
It feels counterintuitive, yeah, but it's entirely legal and entirely expected in mergers and acquisitions. You aren't hiding expenses, you're clarifying them.
Oh, I see.
You are saying to the buyer, here is the cash the business generates. How you choose to spend it, whether on a CEO salary or a company car, is up to you, but the cash generation is real.
Based on that standardized math, the portfolio targets an exit valuation of $1.5 million to $2.4 million by year 5 or later. And they get that number by applying a 3.5x to 5.5x multiple to an estimated $400,000 in SDE.
It is a highly engineered mathematical outcome.
It reminds me so much of flipping a house. Like, if you buy a house with the intention to live in it for 30 years, you paint the walls bright purple, you put in a weird customized fish tank, you do whatever you want because it's for you.
Yeah, you personalize it.
But this business plan is the exact opposite. You intentionally select the neutral gray paint colors, you fix the unseen foundation issues with expensive permits, and you keep every single receipt in an organized binder specifically because you know a strict inspector and a wealthy buyer will be walking through the front door in exactly 5 years.
Exactly.
You aren't building the house for you, you are building it entirely for them.
And this raises an important question about the psychological shift required for a founder to actually pull this off. Most entrepreneurs start a business because they are deeply passionate about the service itself, like they love the purple paint.
Right.
But sophisticated investors don't fund hopeful guesses or personal passions. They fund predictable customer acquisition machines.
They want the binder of receipts and the neutral gray walls?
Absolutely. By pre-documenting all of these systems, the 160 SOPs, the SDE add-backs, the compliance frameworks, the founder is literally training the acquirer on how to value the business at a premium.
Wow.
They are removing all the perceived risk for the buyer. And in the financial world, the lower the perceived risk, the higher the multiple they are willing to pay for the asset.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? Because obviously not everyone listening is out there starting a multi-million-dollar home healthcare agency in Grand Rapids.
The underlying principles of institutional design are universally applicable.
Think about your own daily work. Think about that one complex spreadsheet you update every Friday entirely from memory. If you got sick tomorrow, could a stranger sit at your desk and do it perfectly?
Probably not.
If the answer is no, write the SOP. Document your processes. Invest in the technology and systems that save you time, even if they cost a little more upfront. Stop relying on your own heroic memory to save the day, and start building your work as if you were going to hand it over to a complete stranger tomorrow.
Because if you can't hand your operations over to someone else seamlessly, you don't actually own a scalable business or a manageable department. You just own a very stressful, fragile job.
A fragile job with absolutely no exit strategy.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on, something that really struck me as we analyzed the core philosophy of this portfolio.
Yeah.
We've talked extensively about how OwnerStack engineers empathy, right? How they protect the humanity of the caregivers by giving them a flawless system of SOPs to reduce their cognitive load.
The 160 rules that set the mind free to focus on the patient.
Yes. But if every single human interaction, even in a field as deeply intimate, messy, and emotional as bathing the elderly or comforting someone with severe dementia, if that can be broken down into a sterile documented SOP designed specifically to maximize an exit valuation, at what point does that relentless pursuit of a flawless business system actually design the humanity right out of the service?
Oh, wow. That is a heavy pivot.
We celebrate the efficiency of replacing chaos with order. We applaud the neutral gray paint and the binder of receipts. But where exactly is the line between a perfect, friction-free system and a completely soulless one? At what point does bottling human kindness just turn it into another predictable, shrink-wrapped product on a corporate shelf?
It takes us right back to the paradox we started with. The tension between the messy chaos of real emotion and the predictable assembly line of a scalable asset. Something to definitely think about the next time you try to systemize your own life.